Payments Podcast from Bottomline Technologies.
Greetings and welcome to the Payments Podcast. My name is John Gaffney and I'll be your host for this episode that covers the unique business payments issues in the construction industry. The size of the construction market in 2023, from residential to commercial to public buildings, exceeded $1.8 trillion. And as you might imagine, any leading company in this sector will have its hands full paying suppliers, vendors, subcontractors, and employees, all mixed in with complex project timelines. To help us unpack some of these issues, we turn to one of the leaders in the industry. Founded in 1982, Specialty Products and Insulation, or SPI, is a leading distributor and manufacturer of insulation and related products. Its products are used in thermal, acoustic, and fire protection applications. They're used across commercial, industrial, marine, and OEM markets, and you'll find their products in a range of projects. Their product lines include 35,000 SKUs in a variety of applications that cover most of North America, with service and sales centers throughout the United States and Canada. And by working with domestic and international alliances, SPI serves a diverse customer base, and one of its missions comes from its dedication to be more than an order taker. And most relevant to our conversation today is the fact that SPI over the past 3 years has grown into a $1 billion company with more than $500 million a year in business payments. How do they manage them? Well, that's what our two guests are here to discuss today, and I'd like to introduce them now. First up is SPI's Shared Service Manager, Candi Mooney. Candi is a finance professional with proven leadership and analysis and collaboration skills. She manages an AP team of 16 analysts, entry specialists, and contract specialists, and is also responsible for lead process improvement projects for the group, including implementing an AP automation software solution, transitioning to a third-party payment processor, and upgrading the ERP. That's quite a resume. Welcome, Candi.
Thank you.
And also from SPI, we have Karen Singleton, who is the Director of Credit and Shared Services at SPI. She has several years' experience in operational accounting within the construction industry and financial reporting and flux analysis within the financial industry. She has also managed teams of AR, credit managers, and AP across the United States, with a continued focus on team efficiencies through processes and implementing financial technology applications, including Bassware, PayModeX, and BillTrust. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks, John.
So, Karen, let's start with you, and let's start with the basics. Running shared services in the construction business looks to me like an incredibly complex endeavor. What are some of the business payments issues you see that are unique to this business?
Unique to the construction industry is the fact that you have customers and vendors that may be smaller, that may be less technologically savvy, shall we say, or they stick with the tried and true. They're not quick to upgrade and update with the movement of technology. So what isn't broken, we're not trying to fix.
So, one of the things that shines through in your experience is the fact that SPI has been on a real journey when it comes to business payments. It involved several different kinds of systems and the infrastructure that makes them go. Can you talk a little bit about that journey? How did you deal with all the disparate payment information, different platforms, and in the process, you even made your team more efficient? Tell me about that journey a little bit.
Candi and I had spoken about this before, and when you say journey, it brings to mind the fact that over Christmas break, I was watching the Lord of the Rings movies on one of the streaming services. And Frodo and Samwise Gamgee are basically the two characters that Candi and I swap back and forth. I'm not always Frodo, she's not always Samwise, but we're one of the two. And what happened on our journey has been arduous sometimes light and humorous, but bringing together all of the parties and parts and pieces has been like bringing together all of the armies to fight the bad guys. And to coordinate all of those efforts and to align them has been that much of a hill climb. It really has been. So it's probably the best way for me to put it. It has been very complex to move us from our many payment avenues, resources, to something more streamlined and manageable.
Okay, interesting. So, Candy, let's turn to you now. Was there an inciting incident or a particular case that made you say to yourself, "Hey, we need to upgrade our payment processes here. We need some AP automation." Was there? Do you have any anecdotes around that?
When I was interviewing for this job, Karen was very upfront with me about how the department was in disarray and we needed to bring it together and be more cohesive and be more efficient and get rid of all of the different ways that we process both invoices and payments. She did not sugarcoat it. And so when I interviewed with the CFO, I asked him, "Is there a budget for this?" And he said yes, and that made me very happy because I considered it such a challenge, something that I could really sink my teeth into, and a project to make this all better. And my first few weeks on the job was a little difficult, trying to remember all the different avenues of how we received invoices, how we processed invoices, how we processed payments, checks and ACHs and wire transfers, and all of this manual processing. It was so hard to wrap my brain around when I first started working here, and it was a real motivator to really go for it. And it's been a great challenge, and we've managed it really well. And, it's just so much easier now with one payment platform and one invoice processing platform.
So AP automation had an almost immediate effect then.
It took a while to implement, but once we got it implemented, it's working great.
So let's talk about that implementation a little bit. And I'm going to come back to this journey concept a little bit, Karen, and talk about change management. But I'm going to take a definition from TechTarget and see what you think of this. Change management is a systematic approach to dealing with the transition or transformation of an organization's goals, processes, or technologies. Do you agree with that? And if you do, how have you applied that to the process of migrating from manual to automated AP processes?
I absolutely agree with that. And in fact, I think change management it boils down to one point, and that is communication. When you're communicating with your customers, whether they're internal or external, about the changes that you are implementing, you have to communicate in a way that's going to point out to them what will benefit them and in order to get their buy-in. Because if you don't have that, if you're not communicating with them properly, they're going to go kicking and screaming into the future and won't adopt the process or system that you're trying to implement. So it truly, if you are communicating a change, you say, here's how it benefits you, because everybody's out looking for what's going to pay off for them. So that was probably the best and most efficient way for us to handle this change.
Okay. So Candy, back over to you. You're on the ground. You're the person that is executing and implementing these processes and practices. What became easier with AP automation? Can you be specific about some of the things that improved?
Well, sure. Number one is just general processing. We're processing invoices on one platform instead of two or three. Research, when we need to look something up, everything's all in one place. You don't have to check three different places. The vendor payments are now all in one place, except for the occasional manual payment we may make out of our office. All of our payment information is all in one place. I don't have to check 2 or 3 different places here. It's all in one place. And so it just, everything is streamlined, everything is easier, information is much more readily available. And if when we upload a payment file, if there's something wrong with it, we can correct it. There was an instance where the CFO decided that he wanted to make a different payment method on one particular important sensitive payment. He wanted it to be a wire instead of an ACH, and we had uploaded it. We were very easily able to cancel that payment and go in, and then he was able to do whatever he wanted with it. It was so easy. All we had to do was go into the pay mode platform and boom, just cancel the payment. It was so wonderful.
Just works. Okay, that's good. Karen, back to you. You're the manager. So what did you see in your team? Because I read a lot and I know that from just being in the information flow about AP automation that it makes processes more efficient. But what are some of the things you see your staff doing now? And if you could, tell us about any ROI calculations you've made since converting to AP automation.
We did not do formal ROI calculations to begin with when we were initially looking at systems. We just knew we needed to have something. We looked at EDI, but it wasn't going to bring us the payback that AP automation was going to bring us. And we also knew that it would potentially step up the quality of our AP team. So when we decided on our automation system and when we decided what we were going to do as far as our payment processor, we found since the implementation that all those pieces held true. Our return has been the fact that we don't have near the amount of complaints from vendors on missed payments, late payments, etc. We've had more matching taking place. We've been able to grow the company over the last 3 years without necessarily adding to staff. The staff that we do add has been a higher quality staff because we have been able to finally get to vendor reconcilement, which is something that has been on the back burner but never achievable when we were doing manual processes because the team was so busy, one, manually entering invoices, manually matching POs, manually reaching out to branches because we didn't have good communication resources, working with vendors on past dues. So we were always chasing our tail to try and catch up, but never actually being ahead to where we could be preemptively making good management decisions and proactive with our vendors.
Was fraud a problem before AP automation? And do you feel like fraud detection and defense is more reliable within a payments network?
Our company has always had positive pay. And I will tell you that the crooks out there today have gotten much smarter about how they approach it. But yes, fraud has always been an issue. So having Paymodex has been key to keeping that fraud down. And one of the selling points, knowing that Paymodex never has had a breach was key to one of our decision on going forward. Because when we have had fraud, it's because of the accessibility to checks in the mail, things like that. So having our third-party processor has enabled us to keep that fraud down. I just as a side note, I was shopping for yarn, knitting supplies, etc. One of my many hobbies. And when I was in the small shop, something happened that caused the conversation to come up with one of the other customers. And he was talking about the company that he worked for and that they were not able, because of the system that they were on, to implement positive pay because they could not get an output that would be feasible for the bank. And I recommended that they look into third-party payment processors, specifically Paymodex, because what that does is if you can provide a file even in Excel to Paymodex, they can then turn it around and they submit it to the bank in a format that is positive pay compatible, which helps out even those small businesses in preventing fraud.
Okay, Candy, would you agree? I mean, do you feel like being part of a payments network makes it more reliable?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things for me is that my team and I no longer have to maintain sensitive information from our suppliers. That's all done on the payment platform, and I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to worry about a security breach here and having anything compromised. It's all on Paymode's platform. And as we've already said, they've never had an incidence of fraud. So I feel very comfortable. And I always redirect vendors, you need to do this. Yes, you have to jump through some hoops, but it's for your protection to make sure. That's why there is no fraud, because they check and they double check. So it's absolutely a huge advantage for both us and our suppliers to be part of the network.
That interesting angle that it helps with supplier relationships as well. That's very well said, Candy. I want to stay with you as we get to our final question here. Because you're so integrally involved with the ins and outs of business payments at SPI, I wondered if migrating to an automated system has opened up any opportunities for your future and or the future of your team.
Oh, absolutely. Technology is ever evolving. Business is at different rates, but business is definitely moving into more technological areas. And embracing new technology makes all of these changes a challenge. It allows people to grow both personally and professionally. I have spent my entire career in corporate finance, back when we were handwriting paper vouchers and typing. My first AP job was typing checks on an IBM Selectric. So we've come a long way, and my career has grown, and the people on my team have the ability to grow, learn new things, learn new skills, and that helps them both personally and professionally. So all of this gives me and my team an easier way to do our jobs, and allows, like Karen said, for us to do a lot of other things that may challenge us.
So, Karen, I've given you your kudos on your LinkedIn profile in our preparation for this. But it is one of the things that's notable about it is you're very specific about the importance of growth for you as well as your team. We've heard Candy talk a little bit about how an automated process facilitates that growth. What about you?
So it has been a definite journey from where I came from. I'll never forget. I had one manager that I worked for, and this was back in another life when I actually worked in banking. And he said, "Hey, I think you need to learn this Excel thing." And I was like, "Okay." And to look at me and where we are today, the variety of iterations of SPI, the technology that we've implemented, and grown to know and love over the last, I'm not even going to say how many years. And it has been a journey in reference to that word before. And now I can't see life without it. It allows us to grow financially, and to improve while we do so. So it really has, it stretched me and it stretched the company into who we are today.
Wow, excellent. Okay, that's a wrap for this episode of the Payments Podcast. My guests from SPI have been Candi Mooney. Candi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, John.
And Karen Singleton, best to you as well.
Thank you, John.
So thank you, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud platforms. See you next time.
Payments Podcast from Bottom Line Technologies.